Alexis,
Okay.
how are you today?
I'm pretty great. I'm excited to talk about Ajax today. What about you?
I love this topic. There's so many fun things to do with Ajax. So I think we have some nice examples planned. We're going to explain what Ajax is and why we use it in some of our applications and how easy it is to use it declaratively.
Yes, because Ajax gives you that feeling that you are working on a web application and not in a web page. That everything that the user click is another page. So with Ajax, it feels more like an application.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's responsiveness, right? We've talked about responsive design, but also people use the word responsive for something that works fast and it's very agile or dynamic. So I think that's what Ajax allows us to do. Some interesting functionalities, right?
Yes, exactly.
And well, a lot of people don't realize they've probably been using Ajax all along when they create a dynamic action to refresh a report, right?
Yes, absolutely. Because many things you see that you are setting only a field or something, and you will load completely the page, and that doesn't feel that good for the user. But it's better to partial refresh that you are going to show us
Yeah,
today, and you only reload that component, and it feels really good. It feels fast.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I'm going to share my screen. Let me just show, just to understand what we're talking about. This, what is this Ajax thing? And I don't know if you're too young to have heard of a product that for a cleaning product called Ajax, right? Do you have that in El
Actually,
Salvador? Does
no, yes,
that's not
that
familiar?
product is pretty common still in my country.
I
I
know it
remember
is.
to use that.
I haven't seen them in the U.S., but in Mexico, and now that you say in Salvador, there's a cleaning product called Ajax, and so it's kind of funny to hear that word when for some people hear it. But actually, in our tech terms, Ajax stands for asynchronous JavaScript and XML, and I think it's a horrible acronym thing, but and nowadays we actually don't do that much XML, right? We do a lot
Oh,
of
yes.
JSON.
JSON.
Yeah, JSON is the exciting thing to use. So by definition, from Wikipedia, it says that it's a group of web techniques, and they're used to on the client side to create an asynchronous web applications. So it's kind of hard to digest, right? So I think we need to break it down. I want to explain that everything we do in the web browser, it's going to be our client side. The Apex and the database are our server side. Okay. Now, if there's communication between the two in the background, that's what we're going to call our Ajax communication. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. It's pretty good.
And just a reminder that everything we do on the web browser, it's going to be the world of JavaScript. But what we're doing in the database is the world of SQL and PL/SQL. So this Ajax is actually a really cool technique that allows us to bridge that gap between the two things.
And something that is pretty good about Ajax is that part that is asynchronous because doesn't block the interaction with the user. So when we are pure SQL developers, we are database developers. Sometimes we are not very used to use parallel queries or things like that are running on the background without block the main thread. And with Ajax, you are making a call to the server. The server could be doing something, take 1 second or less time, and still the user be able to use your web application without feeling that.
That's right. That's right. I guess just to say the opposite of asynchronous is synchronous. And that's what we think when we write our code. Uh, Mentally, we're always thinking that we go step by step. This first, this second, this third. And that's synchronous coding. But asynchronous means that we can run something, it goes away, and it may take a long time to finish, and we move on to the next step. And that takes some thinking, some planning, right? It's not as easy to do sometimes.
Yes, exactly.
Let me switch to the example now.
actually about asynchronous, we are going to talk a lot about that on Apex server process examples that we are going to talk at the end in all the other video, because it matters a lot how you handle those calls.
That's right. I think we'll do a teaser, right? We're just gonna tease you a little bit with the Apex server process calls. That's a more advanced topic, and we'll have another video that will go into a deep dive. So don't miss that video. And we'll probably publish that, not probably, we'll publish that video on Alexis's channel. So we'll have a link to his channel and follow that channel. So let's say we have a report here on our very overused EMP table with our employees, right? And a very common example to filter, and I'm gonna filter by the department. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger, just to make it super clear. And as I switch departments, the data is being brought over. Now, what is interesting is the whole page doesn't load again, only the report. And what I want to show is I'm gonna open the inspector, and I just did an F12, and I'm gonna go to the network tab and ignore that for now. But when I switch this, you see that Ajax call? I'm going to first show you that this is what Apex sends with a call. It's actually sending the information about what is the department, the ID of the department we asked for. So research is department number 20. So it's sending the department number 20. And on the way back, we get all this HTML. And some of you may recognize this HTML as this report. Actually, I can do a preview and I can see it without the CSS. I can see that report. And let's do it again. If I go to accounting and I get 2 records, I click on that Ajax. Here are those 2 records. And here's that response with the 2 records. And if I look at the header, we have the department being number 10. That makes sense? So this is a cool way to monitor what our Ajax calls are doing. Let's look at how that example is built. Very simple report. It doesn't matter what type of report it is. But we have one item that is simply our departments, right? And we have a dynamic action that says whenever the item department number changes, it's going to do something. That something is super simple. It's just a refresh action. I'm going to refresh the employees region. That's all I got to do. It's very simple dynamic action, but there's a few things that we got to do correctly, right, Alexis? Like if you don't do it right, it won't work. Yeah. I don't know about you. When you start learning Apex, if you forget this, your filter won't work.
Yes.
So let me remove that. If you guys remember, I was sending the department over to the database. Remember, this is the browser. The browser knows what department you selected, is going to send it over to the database, and the database is going to send back the data. So let me reload the page now with that change. And I have accounting, that worked. And let's switch to another one, operations. And there's our Ajax call, but the data did not change. Accounting, well, that's accounting, but let's go to sales. Sales did not change, right? All this Ajax, let's filter just by, oops, not there. Let's filter here, just Ajax. So if I click on one of those, this pJSON was the one that was sending the value. That department is not being sent anymore because I removed this page items to submit. What that means is whatever value is changing on the browser needs to be sent over to the database when we make the call. And then the database is going to grab this query, is going to plug in our department number values, but it needs to plug in the brand new values. Make sense?
Yeah, and it matters a lot that you don't forget to put that. Another thing, because that's a good feature of Oracle Apex, that when you put that the items and you refresh that report, if you see, you could be using another or more Apex items inside this report. And when you execute the refresh, Apex automatically get the data of all those items and send it to the server to execute the query again. Because what I was doing, when I didn't know about this feature when I was young, and I was
You're still young. What do you mean?
that, yes, I know, but when I was a child,
A child, Alexis, how long have you been doing Apex?
actually, it's funny, 5 years.
5 years. Yeah, you were
Yes,
just a little kid.
Something like 18.
Oh my goodness.
The point is, I was setting the values on the server, and after that, doing the refresh because it's like I need to send this to the server. But Apex doesn't need that. If you put those items names on that area on the pages items to submit, and you execute a refresh, Apex send all of that information directly to the server without you need to be worrying about which item changed.
That's
Apex
right.
will send all of them.
That's right. Yeah, I don't have other items here on this page, but if you select them from here, or I should mention, it doesn't matter what version of Apex you're using, right? Everything we're talking about here goes all the way back to Apex 4.2 with this refresh. So I could have another item here, and it was some flag, and we just do the commas, and all those values would be sent.
Yes, exactly.
Let's talk about another example. A super simple example just to keep making it interesting. Set value. So we've talked about the set value. We could do a $S for the name of my item. Actually, let's look at the page because I don't remember the name of the item. Log date. So I could do a set value to log date and set it to anything, right? And that appears right there. Now, I've hard-coded, when the page loaded, I did a set value here with the actual date. So if I inspect, my button is going to execute a dynamic action that's going to set the value immediately here, and I can clear it. Set it and clear it. Those dynamic actions are pretty simple. I do the set today, set value is being set to a hidden item that's called today. So actually, let me switch that hidden item from hidden to a text field so we can see it. Today. Move this. I'm going to put us over here. Save. Run. So here's that today. Okay? Now, this, because I was using a substitution string on this set value, it's actually hard-coded when the page loads. So it doesn't matter that I enter here a hello, right? I click today, it's still going to be set to today because the dynamic action is hard-coded. I just want to... this is not our main example. Our main example is going to be this Ajax call. This one, this today, let me go to the network again. When I click on it, it actually took a little bit to run. It's going to make a call. It doesn't really send anything on the PJSON data, but what it gets back, it's a value. And that value gets set directly here. Now, you may think there's nothing really exciting about that. But what's interesting about that one, this is the dynamic action. It's still on click of the button. But this set value is actually calling a PL/SQL function body. So right now I have a simple return to chart, but this could be a call to a package that has thousands of lines of code, right? It can be a very complicated thing and it brings back a value that we put on the string, on our screen.
Yes, that's pretty interesting.
So that's just a simple example. Now, I don't know if you guys know, but there's a, where do I put this? Maybe there's going to be perfect. Okay. there's a sample application, or now what they're called productivity apps. So if I go to create a new app and I go here to productivity app, and I'm going to put dynamic, I'm going to search for that one. There's this sample.
Ajax in there.
That was an Ajax call. Good call. Yeah. It's actually refreshing, right? The whole page didn't load. This application has lots of interesting examples. Now, I have it running over here. It has one example that is set value with SQL. It's similar to the one I just showed, but in this example, when I switch departments, look at these values. And you saw how it was spinning for a little bit. What it's doing is going to run a query that returns the location for the department and the account of the employees. So if I switch here to sales, sales is Chicago, it's 6. And if I switch to research, it does a call. So let's see how that's done. That is still a set value. But that set value is running a whole query. So here's our department number. Our dynamic action is also on change. We also doing the set value. There's many possibilities here for set value, right? We've seen static. We can do JavaScript. But these three are the ones that bridge that gap between the server and the client side. They're going to make a call for us. So it's going to basically call this query. Let's just open it real quick, where I get the location and employees. I'm actually getting 2 values, not just one, with a set value. And those 2 values are injected into these 2 columns. Not columns, items. The location item and the number of employees item. And they're just positional, right? The first one into one and the count into the second. Super interesting example, right?
Yes, because you could get data inside your page. You could inject from any place on your database, from table, from packages, functions, procedures. So it gives you a lot of power.
Right. And if we inspect that at Ajax again, sorry, I'm on the wrong page. This Ajax, let's open that one. Let's go to our network tab. Just filter by Ajax, and let's do it again. If I switch to sales, if I inspect it, yes, I get 2 values. I get an array of 2 values that I'm going to place on our items. I didn't have to write the JavaScript necessary to grab these and inject them in there. The set value will do that for us. And in the headers, I can see that department number value is being passed so that the query can run. Let's go back to the query, right? The query needs a brand new department number to get fresh values. So again, it's using that items to submit fields to know, so that the page knows which ones need to be sent over. Pretty nice, cool, nice stuff, right?
Yes, pretty good.
Just a quick reminder. Again, you can do a SQL, PL SQL expression, or a function body. Function body being you can make a select statement, a complete select statement. A complete function with lots of lines of code. Now, super quick. We don't have to use a set value alone. In this example, we're going to edit someone. We can calculate based on changing. It's going to calculate a new commission. Okay. So there's a business rule that says depending on the type of job, the commission is going to be different. So watch the commission, 375. I'm going to switch it to president, and it switches to 500. I'm going to switch it back to sales, 375. I'm going to switch it to clerk, 250. Okay? Now, it's also going to be based on the salary. So if I change the job, it's going to calculate on the commission. And if I switch the salary, so let's make the salary 2,000, when I get out of the field, it calculates the new commission. That one's also very interesting. Now, what's important here? Don't trust your users, right? Because somebody could hack the page to say, oh, we want a new value here, a new job that maybe they're not supposed to see. So always have some sort of validation on the server side. That's important. Don't trust the inputs from the user, validate them. But let's just look at this example really quick.
Because the client validations are always to drive the flow of the user, but they are not for security. The real validations are the one on the server.
Oh, I really like how you explained that. You're saying it's for the flow of the application to help the user, but they're not for security. That's great.
Yes, it's only to show in a good way to the user.
So this is super interesting. Let me collapse this so we can see it higher. Job and salary have this arrow because they're tied to this dynamic action. It's the same one, cal commission. And you can see they're tied because they have two items there. Let's move us over there. And if I expand this, first I'm going to do a set value. And you can see here how there's a more complicated business rule here. And it's just a case statement in this situation where, depending on the job, there's going to be a different multiplier for your commission, and it just calculates the new commission based on the salary and the multiplier. And this example happens to have this plugin that I don't know if you noticed, but it was highlighting the value. It makes it kind of green for a moment. Let me show you again.
I didn't see it.
It's kind of, I almost did not see it there. Oh, there's something about the screen. I can see it very faint.
Yes, me too, but I'm not sure if it's actually different or.
Yeah. Let's, that plugin lets you set the color.
Red.
How about we do exactly red? Let's set it to red, see if we can see it. It loads. You know what? I don't think it likes values like that. Maybe.
Okay, commission.
It should like them though. Well, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna make it slow. See if we can see it. It has like the speed. I looked at this plugin, by the way, and it's using the animate calls, which is similar to what we were covering in our last video. Sorry that our last video on this was in Spanish. So if you don't speak Spanish, I'm sorry about that. But you may still watch and get some information out of it. Now you could see it. Yeah, now you can see it. Now that it's slow, it goes green and it disappears. It changes green and disappears. Yeah.
Oh, pretty good.
Yeah, kind of interesting, right?
Yes, actually, that kind of things are necessary because if not, the user doesn't see what happened, what changed. So it's good to show,
that's right,
field changed with the Ajax call.
Yeah, even though it's making a round trip to the server and back, these things can happen so fast the user won't know that something else changed on the screen. So it's kind of nice to give that feedback. What's the next example we should show? Do we go straight to the programmatic? We can make a really complicated programmatic example. You want to show another PL SQL example? I think you had one.
Yes, I will show this example because I think it's a pretty common one that I will share my screen. Give me a second. Could you see my screen?
I see it. Perfect.
Okay, this one is a easy one. That you have a field, and when the user type on this a name, you will create an employee with that name. So the user come here and put, I don't know, it's called Hector. I don't know if that name exists on English. So.
Sure. So you type something on the field, and you're basically gonna do an insert statement.
Yes, exactly. Very common approach will be that when I click here, I submit the page, and on the process of the page, I will create the employee. But on this moment, I don't want to submit the page to avoid a reload. I will do a call with Ajax.
Okay.
I create, and it should be here, but it's, I don't know. Oh,
It expired.
yes, it's expired.
That's
Okay,
another
how
interesting issue with this approach, right?
Oh, yes.
You may not
need
realize
to-
your page is expired. Yeah,
Yeah, you need to handle that.
there it is.
Okay, that is here.
I can see the value.
Okay, you see, without and reload the page, I already insert this on the database and it's already on the report. I refresh the report. And how do we do this? Well, I only created a button here with a dynamic action on click, and we have two actions. Execute PL/SQL, we execute the insert. As Jorge was saying, it matters a lot that you add here the items that you need information about in your PL/SQL, the ones you are going to use, because the server, when you do the Ajax call, the client will send those information to the server. So now I need only the employee name, which is this field here. And after that, I insert that. I create a simple insert in SQL. And when this finish, I will refresh the report. One thing that when we are talking about asynchronous calls, if you see Apex expose attribute here that is called wait for results. When you are executing PL/SQL and you are doing something on the server, so that means when you are doing a Ajax call, the default in Ajax is no wait for results. So if I set this to no, it could be very possible that I refresh the report without this being executed or finished.
Right. So the refresh could be happening at the same time as the insert's happening, but the insert's not done, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because those two steps on the dynamic action will happen very fast. The call to insert and the call to refresh will happen almost instantaneously. Our insert maybe did not commit, so our refresh could refresh and our value is not there. So that's a very interesting use case that we want that wait for result.
Yes, exactly. So every time you had more actions on your dynamic action and you are using PL/SQL, it will be the average that you always set this flag to wait for results, because you need Apex to respect the order in the one you set those actions.
Very nice. Now, I was showing the set values, but you're showing this one is just execute PL/SQL code. So you can do just like we mentioned, lots of interesting things, right? It can be very complicated. And optionally, if you notice, below the items to submit, you could return something. So it may or may not return values. You could return a status message. You could say success and put it on an item. Actually, you know what you could do? You could put employee name again there to return and set it to empty in the PL/SQL code.
That sounds like a good idea.
So it's interesting that we could send it, modify it, and bring it back.
I don't know why I'm validating set to null.
No, that's good. Oh yeah, while you're validating,
yes,
yeah.
Sorry, I want to be sure.
Make sure you get perfect code.
Okay.
So that's super interesting, right? It is submitting, but we're expecting it back.
Actually, a pretty common approach is you could save the error if you get an error here.
That's right.
You return this on an item and create a new action, and after that, with JavaScript, see if this item is null. And if it's null, maybe refresh, and if it's not null, show the error to the user.
Right, like unchanged on the item, right? If the item changes value, you're gonna refresh.
Yes, exactly.
If it's null, okay. I
Yes.
think your session may have been expired though.
Do you
Let's-
think that?
I've seen. Okay, let's see. Let's see if it works.
I will reload because I think I was. Oh no!
Oh no, maybe you're good. Okay. So put a
Okay.
new name. Let's see.
Did I save this? Yes, I did.
Yes.
Okay, we'll put one. John.
It should insert, and then the employee name should be cleared. Oh, there it is.
Yes. It's
Perfect.
working.
We see it insert, and we saw the name disappear. Very nice, right?
Yes, it's pretty nice. And I gotta say that this is not only about showing something nice because it's funny to use Ajax. It's about speed too. Because when you are using Ajax, what the server sent to you is only the answer you are requesting from the server. But when you reload the page, you are getting all the results the page is using. Maybe this is already on the browser, on the client, because the cache, but it's still redrawing all the page and everything. So it could be slower. Your application could feel like it's not that fast. And now when the users are used to fast application on the mobile devices and everything, it's better to only send the information that you need. So if you can avoid to send and to be refreshing your page a lot, I think you should use Ajax.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I agree.
Okay, I think this is my example. I don't need.
Do we talk about a little bit of Apex server process?
Yes, I think that it would be good to show a little bit how you handle that, and maybe we could go deeper on the next video.
Because all of these examples have been declarative. We've
Exactly.
written a little bit of the PL SQL and SQL code, but no JavaScript, right? Everything's been very declarative in the way we handle it. So let me share again. So Alexis, have I told you today about my OCD application? I don't know if I told you today about it.
No, today, no. Last week, I kind of remember, but I saw a tweet that you upgraded, you added a new feature to the add columns.
I did. Let me show you. So for those that don't know, what this is about is, let's say that this tags and username, or let's say the username column and tags were added after the fact, and maybe tags is okay at the end, but username should be higher. I can drag it up and reorder my column. And it's using an interesting trick of the database in that if you make a column invisible, this is a 12C feature, by the way, only in 12C. If you're in 11, I'm sorry, you can't use it. But it makes the column invisible, and then it makes it visible again. And when you do that, when you make it invisible, it gets moved to the end of the table. And then when you make it visible, it shows up at the end. So that's all you're doing. So let me show you. Let's go to a more complicated table. Let's say that these columns were not at the end. Let's say we added due date over here, right? Let's say it was like that, and that's horrible, right? You're like, oh, that's bothering me. I can't sleep because my column is out of place.
Oh,
By the way, for some people don't know, but OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder, right? So I'm obsessively thinking that my columns are out of place. Well, in the new feature, I can click on columns and I can move multiple columns. So for example, I'll move them up there, or I can take these two columns and move them. How cool is that?
Wonderful, because that helped me to match my script, the order of my columns on my script.
That's right.
And it will match the database.
So in this case, what I need to do is make a JavaScript call. So we're not going to go through the whole code, but there's a call called Apex Server Process. By the way, you can download this application from GitHub, and I'll put the link at the end of the video. But Apex Server Process, let's do something first. I'm going to go to apex.oracle.com.jsapi/JS API. JS API, it's a shortcut to the JavaScript help for Apex for the latest version. And I'm going to go to Apex Server, because Apex Server Process has lots of interesting options. It's going to receive a name for the call of the code that we want. It's going to receive data back, and we're going to pass data, and it has some options. Now, within that, there's lots of things we can do. We can pass items. We can pass unique values up to 20, x01 through x020. I can pass arrays. And in my example, for example, I'm sending the array with the positions of the columns. I pass it in one array so I can reorder them. And then there's lots of other options. And we don't need to cover all of them. But here's a classic example. I'm going to move it to the editor. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Classic example is I'm going to call my process. What is this? This is what's called an Ajax callback. And I'll show you where that is defined. I'm going to pass one value into the x01 parameter, and I'm going to pass page items from my page. And if that call is successful, and I can do something here if it's successful, and if there's an error, I can do something else. So this is a very just simple call. Let me show you on the OCD just how that looks. I'm calling update order. Let me show you where that is. That is what we call an Ajax callback. If I go to the processing tab under Ajax callback, these are PL/SQL chunks of code that are going to be called on demand when we want with Apex Server Process. So I'm calling a package to handle all my problems, and I'm just calling it with the name of my table. That's it. So where's the order of the items? Well, the items are being passed in what's called F01, and F01 is going to be an array. And I'm going to open the package super quick and call F01. F01 gets passed into a Apex application G F01, and that is my array. So you can see here how I'm looping through my elements to see if I need to move the column or not. So I pass the array. Oops. I'm just gonna place it here so that's clear. I'm passing my values, and on success, I have another if to see if it's successful. Why is that? So the definitions of success here is very interesting. It actually means that it successfully went back and forth to the server. So I could still have errors. So if there's an error when I do my code, I'm going to decide here with this if statement. And if it's successful, I'm going to show a page message success, which by the way, you can see how if I open the console, I do that, it shows up, right? I can say whatever I want here on those. These are JavaScript calls. Anyway, so I send a success message, else I'm going to show an error on the page. I pass whatever error happened. I do a set item to clear. I show the SQL. This is the SQL that was used. I'm setting it to this P code, and then I trigger the refresh of my region with the column so I can show the fresh region. So I'm gonna leave this code at that just as a teaser, right? And then we'll cover that later.
Yes, there are a lot to talk about this. We have so many attributes. Actually, this Apex Server Process is only a wrapper of the jQuery Ajax method. So there are so many options, and sometimes you can get only strings or you could get JSON data, but there's so many things that you could do with that.
Yeah, there absolutely. It's very advanced. Many options, very, very cool options. Lots of way to pass values. As you saw, I was using an array, but it can be unique values. It can pass items. So we can do lots of work on those.
Yes, absolutely.
This was a really good session, Alexis. I think it was fun to explain Ajax, maybe help somebody, and we can then expand on that on the next video.
Yes, yeah, well, I'm really happy to have talk about this because it's so useful and it's so good to use this to give a nice application to the users. And thanks for inviting me, Jorge.
My pleasure. Glad you were here. Find Alexis on Twitter. The description will be there. I'm going to have links here to his channel and his videos. Go find them and follow. Thanks.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone. Hola, Alexis. No, English. That's all right.
I was like, oh, wow.
That's all right. Hola, Alexis. Oh, we're going to record this in English.